Hi, my name is Jay Pembridge, and what I'm presenting here is work on our NSF-funded RED, or Revolutionizing Engineering Departments grant. Our project is specifically focused on using Scrum, which is an agile methodology, into regular department operations in order to encourage change within that department and the department students. This project is being led by Tim Wilson, along with Masoud Tahidnejad, Aaron Bowen, and Carlos Castro. As the note on the bottom of the screen indicates, if you would like a captioned version of this video, please email me directly at that email, and I can send that to you as needed. Now, when we think about faculty culture, at times it can be very individualistic. When we go into a classroom, it is typically a faculty member on their own with their students, the class. Now, when we think about this in terms of research, oftentimes there's a certain level of individual nature to that research where we do our own tasks. Even if we have a research team of students or maybe even a few other faculty, there are aspects of this that can be very individualistic in nature. And what we would like to do is kind of open that up in order to develop a shared vision and a lot more collaboration amongst our faculty. In order to create that collaboration and a lasting change within the department, we're using Scrum. And Scrum is an agile methodology commonly seen in software engineering. The term actually comes out of rugby, where there's a group of people working together to move in small increments towards an end goal. In this case, the group that is working together is called a Scrum team. Central to that Scrum team is the development team, who is actively working on those elements. And some of that team have different roles. One of those roles is a Scrum Master. And we don't think of the Scrum Master as the traditional term of the master, but really what they are is the Scrum Sensei, the person that is guiding the rest of the team in the use of Scrum to make sure that the process and flow is working towards that end goal, or in this case, the product. The other person that on that team that kind of guides us a little bit is the product owner. And the product owner is constantly thinking about what the end product is and what is the best way to achieve that product. And then also integrating with the stakeholders about how that product should be created and getting feedback from those stakeholders. Now, one of the key aspects of Scrum is that using the process, it encourages transparency, inspection, and adaptation, which we feel is critical to creating that change. What you see here is a simplified version of the Scrum process. In general, it will begin with the creation of a product backlog. And inside that backlog is a set of tasks or features that can be completed that lead to the successful development or creation of whatever that product is. They are organized by the Scrum team from highest to lowest, and as things come up, Scrum members can add items into the product backlog as necessary, allowing them to adapt the creation of that product. Now, going into the creation of that product, it is done in increments called a sprint. And a sprint is about a 2-week time period where the team chooses tasks that they can complete during that time period during a sprint planning session, and they discuss how much effort or how much time it would take to complete it. Now, during the sprint, that team also has regular stand-up meetings. And when I say regular, they could be every day. For us in our own sprint teams, we use 2 times a week, 3 times a week. And during that meeting, what happens is it is a very short meeting where we discuss 3 items. We say what we got done since the last time we met, what are we planning to get done by the next time that we meet, and then what are the things that are impeding us from getting those things done so that we can share and help each other along that process. At the end of this 2-week sprint, what occurs is a sprint review where you look at what was completed and how well it was completed, and then there's also a sprint retrospective where you reflect on the sprint process itself and you identify ways to improve it for the next sprint that will occur the following 2 weeks. And this process iterates over and over again until the creation of that successful product. Now, thinking about that Scrum process, what we want to be able to do is think about how Scrum when implemented in higher education, specifically in engineering department, can influence change. And one of the ways that we're doing this is by mapping the elements of Scrum onto a change framework. And the change framework that we're using is that 4-quadrant framework that you see on your screen right now, very common within engineering education and STEM education. And it emphasizes the use of dissemination, reflection, policy, and shared vision. But more importantly, having a balanced approach across those 4 categories and to encourage that change. Now, working our way around that quadrant, we'll start off with dissemination. In traditional terms, dissemination looks at things like articles, papers, reports, things that an individual will read that informs them about a certain topic. In general, within Scrum, there is a good amount of dissemination that happens, but it happens in a very collaborative manner. There's internal communication amongst the group. There are artifacts that are shared throughout that sprint and throughout the Scrum process. But also what happens is we start to bring in subject matter experts that understand the product and the things that we are trying to create. So there's some development of expertise that happens, but also bringing in that person. And then also training. There may be training that is needed to occur in order for a successful sprint, in order for the creation of that product, and that is acknowledged through this process. Next, we have reflection, and reflection is very key to individual faculty change. We see this in a lot of the literature that is out there right now. When mapping this onto Scrum, many of the aspects of Scrum are focused on reflection, specifically sprint planning, stand-up meeting, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. In each one of those steps, the group is coming together and doing a collaborative reflection on what they think they could get done, what they did get done, what are the things that are impeding them from doing the things that they need, and even from the sprint process as a whole, that retrospective is grounded in reflection. And not just reflection for the sake of reflecting on it, but also reflecting in order to achieve actionable goals on the next sprint and throughout the entire Scrum process. When you think about policy, commonly we think about top-down approaches that kind of mandate certain rules and guidelines within a department. Scrum in itself, as a departmental operation, and the procedures that need to be adhered to or adopted by that group can be considered a policy implementation. This policy implementation at the department level, as I mentioned earlier, encourages transparency, inspection, and adaptation that the whole group within that department will strive towards. There are also other aspects of policy that can be changed related to Scrum. Think about things associated with P&T, performance evaluations, hiring of other faculty, and search committee operations. And you can start modifying and thinking about policy even as a product that may come out of a Scrum team. The final change strategy is a shared vision, and commonly this is thinking about developing a common goal amongst the faculty that leads towards that change, a perspective, an ideology within them. Within Scrum, this is core to it. The group, the high level of collaboration that happens specifically on the Scrum teams, develops that shared vision where people are buying into and contributing to the creation of that product. Additionally, if you think about Scrum team size, Scrum teams are 4 to 6 individuals, and a department has much more than that. In our own department, we have 16 to 20 faculty and staff at any given time. So that is too large of a team. So what you can have is multiple teams that are working on individual products that can lead to a larger product, referred to as Scrum of Scrums or Meta Scrum, that enables multiple teams to work together in the creation of a much larger thing. Now, looking at this holistically, we can see that Scrum in general adheres to each one of those 4 quadrants of the change strategy. But what we also see is that transparency, inspection, and adaptation are very critical within each one of those change strategies as well. For example, dissemination, highly transparent, focused on that communication of knowledge and skills. Reflection is heavily focused on inspection and adaptation, and how can we think about what we are doing and how do we make it better, and how does that lead to future actionable goals that we can add to the product backlog. So we argue that each one of these 4 change strategies align very closely with the core tenets of Scrum. Finally, I would like to thank you all for watching this video and learning more about our project. And we would also like to acknowledge the contribution from the National Science Foundation that allows us to do this work. We are in the first year of our project, and there will be much more to come. Thank you.